Welcome to another episode of Growing Our Future, where we meet with folks in the educational, health, and environmental sectors about what they're doing to make the world a better place. We have a very highly esteemed guest today, Tanner Freeman. What's going on, Tanner?
Thanks, man. I don't know if I'm educational or environmental, but
You're all of the above.
I'm all of the
You
above.
work with those sectors.
I do. Yeah.
So Tanner is a good friend. He reached out to me like probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. He's a graphic artist and much more. He has his own company called Due South. Tanner, tell me a little about who you are and how you got here.
Yeah, so I've been in San Antonio for maybe a decade. Originally grew up in Waco, spent a little time in like North Texas and Abilene for college. But I think the reason I originally talked to you is like the pandemic was coming on. You're looking for things you can do to be a part of something, like help out. And I have a background in landscaping. Like before I was ever a graphic designer, I was like a gardener, both in high school and college.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me personally, like San Antonio has been a really like awesome, like transformative experience, but it's really all based around the people.
Yeah.
And even my clientele who, we have professional relationships is also like a lot of times they're really deep conversations and, like we're all seeking the same thing, which is like authentic engagement with our audience and not just like, hey, we want to sell you more, stuff.
So you grew up in Waco. How did growing up in Waco lead to you being a graphic designer?
Man, honestly, like I don't think anything about Waco led to that, but I remember taking long road trips to see my grandparents in Amarillo and San Angelo. And I remember seeing all these like old agricultural logos on the side of, the various like silos or feed stores or whatever. And they just always stuck with me. Like our original logo when I had a business partner was actually the old like ag co-op sign. It was like this
really?
Venn diagram, red and blue.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's part of the inspiration.
Yeah.
And now that you say that, I can see it in your work a little bit. It's definitely like old school.
Yeah.
Like rounded edges.
Yeah.
Feels like it could fit like in 1940 or 2040.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so that's sort of with some of your inspiration. You moved to San Antonio. When did Due South get started?
So Due South.
Tell me the story of Due South.
So I had a business partnership prior to Due South called Due Town, right? And then there was going to be, my buddy was moving to Dallas and then eventually New York, and there's going to be Due North and Due South.
Okay.
By the time he told me he didn't want to do it, I had already like,
it was already in full
I
motion.
was already in full motion. And so August of that year, we started.
August of
2015.
2015.
Good started Due South.
Here in San Antonio?
In Waco.
Here in Waco.
And then I moved here in like maybe December of that year.
Okay.
Or at least signed a lease in that year and then moved here, a couple weeks later. And since then, man, it's been a ride. Like the vibe here vibe is like a way overused term, but the spirit of like this community is very like everyone aspires to kind of be this like working class Joe. And you even think of like places like the Friendly Spot where you have like, or even up north, there's a lot of beer gardens and stuff where people are sitting in like lawn furniture and drinking, cheap beer and hanging out on 100-degree days just to, just to be with one another.
Yeah.
And I always felt like Waco, like it kind of blew up after I left, but it never really had that kind of culture. Like that culture was concealed. It was something to be kind of ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
And the community as a whole kind of tries to be like Dallas or like
conspicuous consumption.
Yeah, they will, and it's like the town is very split along the highway, along the river, culturally, economically, whatever. And the thing I appreciated immediately about San Antonio was like, because I just moved, man. I have a job down here. I was like, I'm gonna go find clients there.
Yeah.
Kept a lot of my Waco clients, still have a few, but it was just the people, man, and like the way, I remember a bar would open up here, like places like Alamo Street Eats, if you remember that, really inspired me because it's like, man, there's not a lot going on here, but like the sum of all the parts, you can get like Puerto Rican food or like barbecue.
Where was that located?
It was in
On Austin
Southtown.
Highway?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
no,
Southtown.
Southtown
Okay.
on Alamo, on
Okay.
South Alamo, and it's like now
It's a parking lot. Yeah,
Parking lot.
I went
But
there.
it was a
I lost
parking-
my Gardopia hat there.
But it was a parking lot there.
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
It was like
yeah,
a
yeah.
glorified
Yeah.
parking lot. And there, there's less places like that now. But you could even argue like the spots in town that are the most highly invested in and whatnot, like the Pearl, are still just an old brewery, And so I think being able to see like this diamond in the rough is like something that San Antonio does really well. Like this space is a really good example of that. Like, I don't know what it was before this.
They get a lot.
They get a lot. So it's like, that seeing that potential and thinking about design are, that's really what we do every day. It's like a client comes to us with like a specific vision, or maybe they have no vision and they're like, hey, I'm a great chef, but I don't know what this is going to look like. And we kind of help them come up with that. And so when it comes to like this kind of fertile, environment to do design, like, I mean, people have been really good to me. I think small business here is, it has its challenges, but like most people are receptive to like buying local and finding people that they want to have like a coffee or beer with and working with them as opposed to like some big agency.
And then, San Antonio, a lot of people say it's a big city, but it still has a little town feel. Right?
Yeah.
Like people like,
definitely.
You could probably message the mayor and he might hit you up, right?
Yeah, I'm working on the mayoral campaign for Beto right now.
I saw that. That's big, man. I mean, and again, for a young entrepreneur to be able to run for office and feel confident in that, right? Like, I think that just speaks to the spirit, right?
Yeah.
Of San Antonio. And I think San Antonio is an ambitious, progressive city that moves a little slow.
Yeah.
But, the good thing about moving slow is you can see other failures and make adjustments in real time.
Yeah.
It can be a little frustrating as a young person because you want to go, right? Yeah. So finding that balance, but
finding the pace, dude, like settling into the pace took me a while. Because believe it or not, like Waco moves a lot faster. Like I was working all the time here. It's like I can't name too many days where I worked past 5.
Okay. All right. So you have a family, you have a daughter, you have a wife, right? You live in Highland Park, right?
Yeah.
Supporting the community down the street from us.
Yeah.
How did you find out about Gardopia?
I think, realistically, it may have been like a client or someone making food. I think, I don't know, man. I don't know when I approached you.
But I know, like you said, probably 2020, maybe.
Yeah,
the latest.
It might have been time for sure, like 2019, 2020. I remember like the George Floyd, like just aftermath was in like full swing. And like to me, it's like, I'll choose my words carefully, but it's like, to me, it's like there's this real, like in my whole life, there's been like a divide between like white and black, because that's just how Waco is kind of
the whole United States. Yeah.
The whole United States.
Really the whole
like,
world, to be honest.
But really, like I grew up knowing about like, hey, that tree at the courthouse is where Jesse Washington was lynched, and like, I don't know if there's something that like we have to atone for as white people. Like, I don't live my life like that. But it was enough to pique my interest in like, dude, what are some black owned anything?
Yeah.
Right. And not like
support.
Not that it was because of that, but it woke me up to a lot of like issues that maybe I was like dormant with. And my last name is Freeman, so I've always had like, buddy, I remember the field house people being like, what is your last, like, why is your last name that? Like, you're not even black, dude. And it's like, so the conversation had been kind of like in my head for longer.
Yeah.
But I think like seeing what you're doing here on the east side and in how you started, kind of like how I started, where it's
the
like,
same year.
Yes, actually, yeah, that's wild, man. But I remember coming to a Juneteenth thing here after making the logo and just being so inspired by like how the community moved, and like I don't know if my daughter was around at that point, but she would have been a baby, and just like this is a community that's kind of like feeding into, like, they're giving something, they're offering something, they're feeding people nearby, and not like this, like, not that it's predatory or anything, but like there's a lot of nonprofits who exist to
poverty pimping,
to just give things out, and y'all are educating, y'all are like, take some vegetables, but also like educate your mind, like
Sure.
learn
Knowledge is
about
key. Knowledge
health,
is power.
you know, and like and make yourself, you know, improve your life through health and in agriculture and all these different things. And that was really impactful to me. So, and the other thing is like, if you think about it, man, like when I was growing or when I was in college and post college, every little documentary we watched was about like food science or Detroit, like interurban farming. And so I already had the bug in that.
Yeah, you were like ready to go.
You know, so I found y'all and I was like, okay, this is really cool. So,
well, you hit me up, and a lot of people hit me up, man. A lot of people are like, hey, I want to be involved. Like probably at least one person a day, right? And so
those are good numbers.
Yeah, it is. But a lot of people like they get that initial impulse,
Yeah.
but like the follow through on it. You know, and my schedule's super busy, so I can't necessarily meet with you that day. So like some people get disinterested, but like I think it took a few months for us to finally connect. Like one day I think we met and the internet service wasn't working. And so like the fact that you stayed with, I'm like, all right, this guy actually wants to like do something. And we went into this big session. We went into this big rebranding, redoing our logo, and we had this conversation multiple times with multiple people, right? So the fact that you could come up with something in like revision after revision, you came up with different concepts. Like, tell me how you felt about that process in the moment.
I mean, granted, like I would give other clients that we worked with like the credit for that, you know, because we had worked with nonprofits before where it's like everyone wants to be heard at the table, which is great because they're gonna have to live with it.
Yeah, every day.
And we had unsuccessful projects, we had successful projects, and like, you know, I remember one instance where we were doing something for this thing called Waco Community Development, which was close to my heart because when I was in high school, we mowed lawns for them, like vacant lawns, just to make them not feel like vacant lawns. Yeah, and like, you know, and it was one of those things where like 5 years later, it's like this guy named Mike Stone, who's actually, his wife still runs all my payroll for my one employee, but you know, they're really good people. And it's like, we just couldn't get it across the finish line. Like we couldn't, and it might've been a generational thing, but we couldn't convince them that these people who weren't a part of the community could come in and articulate their messaging in a correct way. And I don't remember doing like stellar design work for it, but I'm like, man, this is the appropriate design work. And that was a paid project. And so when we approached this, I was like, you know, my heart's got to be a lot bigger than my need to like capitalize myself. And I don't take a cent from y'all, but like, it was never like a ego thing, you know, because I knew what was ahead. Like, there's been so many instances where we worked with nonprofits and it's been either, you know, like it's been successful, but with this caveat of like, hey, we have to impress all these different people. So we have to get
more stakeholders that are private.
Yeah. More of this community buy-in, or it was the inverse, like I was talking about. And they're like so guarded that they're like, I don't know if this person's right. We hired you to do it, but it's like, we're fine with coming out with the same logo. And I still get clientele who, you know, you enter into this relationship with, and they don't really want to change anything. But
that's what I wanted. I wanted
like they need a relationship.
I wanted an updated logo. I wanted an updated G, right? Like that. I made the G logo.
In the basket.
Yeah, the cornucopia. Like that's what I wanted. You know, I was like, look, it just needs to be updated, right? But you know, you worked with us and you came up with some different concepts, and here we are today.
We should look at
with the new Gardopia logo.
Yeah.
And people love this logo. You know why? Because it's bigger than Gardopia.
Yeah.
It really represents San Antonio.
Yeah.
When people see it, I'm like, oh shit, San Antonio, right? So it's like, yeah, you got the tower. You got the tower with a leaf. Like one day we're gonna fly a big flag with a leaf on it off the tower, right? Like how dope would that be? For Earth Day, maybe 2030 or something.
You know, the other thing that's interesting about you is like, you knew the history of agriculture in San Antonio and like how you would, you know, call it like, oh, it was like the winter breadbasket or something, Winter Garden of America, and like send me some stuff from the 20s where it would incorporate like a tiny bit of the skyline with like these kind of like hills and these kind of rolling like crop rows and different things. And so that was a big inspiration, is like,
Yeah.
you had already done like the work up here for me to, do that visually.
Heck yeah. And it's awesome is you made this logo for us, and then a year later, we started the Young Women's Leadership Academy primary farm.
Yeah.
And I turn around, and guess what I see? The tower. So you almost premonition the future with this. Like, you need to come to Young Women's. I need to drive by.
Which is interesting though, because like that's super close to my house, and when I get up on the roof to do something, I can see that view too.
So a little bit of your neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
looking that way.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
Sure.
No, and then the buildings and the houses, like, it's perfect, man. It's perfect. And I just can't say how thankful I am for you for donating your services to help us grow. And so now, due south, clearly you have to make money. You got to pay your bills. Tell me, like, what new projects you have up and coming?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things. There's, it's ironic, but like we've been really involved in like Legacy Park and Weston Urban and those kind of like ventures downtown.
Yeah.
And, there's definitely this idea of like, they're kind of gardeners, they own real estate, but they're not, I'm sure they could sell it to like the highest bidder, but they're not. And so recently I got to work on a project called the Continental, and it's this old, it's on Buena Vista. It's like a one-way street. It's going east, right? Like if you're at Pinners or know where the TPR is or La Zona Culture, it's right there. And then it's kind of sandwiched between that and the UTSA, the new downtown like cybersecurity campus, right? And it's like there's two historic buildings, and in the middle they're building something. So, that was a really interesting project because, the hotel was named the Continental, and that's the name we're going with. But we came up with so much just based on the history of the area, everything from like the Presidio to like the Messenger to all these different things. And it's like, not saying that this project was like redoing the logo is foundational, but I think that same kind of insight of like there is a deeper history here, and trying to kind of, build off those deeper histories and make it into something that's exciting for people to like engage with, 100 years later. Man, it's really wild. Like, but yeah, we've been involved in like so many things lately, and the downtown community's been one. The like food and beverage community.
Yeah, I say you do a lot of brewery work, right?
Yeah, and like actually it's weird because I think after you, a lot of like food companies kind of came to me, like Pure Pastures. I don't know if you know them, but they've been a client, and we actually started a podcast recently, and they're going to do an interview.
Also, the Beignet Stand.
Yeah, Beignet Stand. Like Mike and Elisa are great. Yeah. And like, it's interesting how like all of those things kind of culminate and like snowball into something else. But yeah, we've been involved in a lot. Leo's Hideout, which is a pizzeria.
I just went. It just opened.
Pretty good.
Yeah. $1 slices I got.
Oh, dude.
I loved it. That's your logo, huh?
Yeah. So,
okay.
And I mean, honestly, since the time we've been working together, Preston Brown has been, kind of my right-handed dude. He's really responsible for a lot of like, I'm very like big picture guy, and he can be like, okay, like, how big should this leap be in the logo? Those kind of things. And he's really like awesome at all that. But dude, it's been a ride, man. And I, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I would say 95% of clients in the past decade here have been really good experiences. And, the ones that haven't have just been the wrong fit, and it was probably taken at times where we were a little hungrier than we are normally, and I'm like, okay, who cares? There's all these red flags, but like, let's get it done. Let's get paid.
Yeah.
But I think where we're at right now and kind of the present is like really trying to drill into like who we are and how we're different. There's a lot of like one-man design shops here in town. We're a two-man design shop. And there's a lot of ad agencies, and it's like, not saying that we can necessarily compete with all their offerings, but we can do stuff in a way.
What are your offerings?
I mean, that's the interesting thing. Like when it comes to clientele, it's like, we could offer a lot of the things like a larger agency would offer, but we're kind of offering it as people who we would maybe want to like hang out with, and like people who are willing to like dig a little bit deeper. And our core service is branding. So like, and I hate to say branding's like creating logos because it's so much more than that, but
type
like
fonts,
a lot of people
color
start with
grid,
that.
yeah.
A lot of our clientele start with that, and we have a real niche in like small and mid-sized businesses. We do work with larger businesses, but our bread and butter is like people who are like, I think of places like Beignet Stand or Wild Barley. It's like they were all, pop-ups or food trucks prior to being in physical locations. And I think like we're kind of a gateway for that, like it's like the other thing is like CPG, like consumer packaged goods, like Tio Colognes. We're working with Hess Street Foods right now, who just won Quest for Texas Best. I was just at Roadmap before this talking to Dustin, and it's like we kind of like worked out this little niche. And for me, it's like it's really like we're trying to package like visual culture, because there's so many other things we could be supplying. Like we could be supplying like I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that we're like we could do a lot more like kind of like basically chase whatever trend is out there. And that's all good and well, but at the same time, it's like I want to build establishments, and I want to build places that are around for 10, 20 years, not places not that trendy. Are just like, hey, dude, we're gonna
1
be
year here, 1 year gone.
Yeah, like, and I think that's really like the core of what we do is like build brands.
Okay.
And whatever form that takes, if it's like video or design or even some like copywriting or some strategy or
websites, right?
Yeah, websites. And the thing about websites is like, man, I'm really frank with my clients. Like, the world is changing, right? And like when we do a website, we're either gonna make a $2,500 website, or we're gonna make a $10,000 to $15,000 website, because you can't really fake like the internet is not a place to like just put your name out there anymore. It's like it's so competitive and there's so much noise that you're either going to make a statement or you're just going to hold your space.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on that have changed a little bit.
Sure.
And recently we've taken on some like social media clients, which is new, but I'm really excited about that because it's like our brands and our work that we're creating in action. Whereas like right now we do a lot for social media, but we don't post it. We don't control any of that.
The client has other people.
The client either hires someone else.
You're making the like content.
Hey man, I'm in the school line to pick up my kids. I guess I'll post this right now. So it's like we're trying to add a little bit more like strategy and depth to the work we create and how it's published. So
well, it's critical. I mean, again, I'm not an artist, and so having folks like you who like have the eye for it, have the ability to get it done relatively quick, and are good people as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could hire this huge firm, but if this huge firm is like one overcharging people, has nothing to do with the community, and once it's done, it's transactional, right? Like you and I talk beyond the design, right?
Yeah.
If I had hired an outside firm, like we wouldn't be here today, probably.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate supporting people who are embedded in the community, and you're one of those folks, man.
Man, I appreciate that.
And so, how can people find you? Website, social media.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all Due South or DueSouth.com.
And DEUX?
DEUXSOUTH. The whole name etymology came from, it was like me and a business partner, right? So it's two guys. Duotone was taken. So we were trying to say like
for San Antonio, like tone?
No, man, that's actually really cool. But no, it was like it's like a printing process, right? So we're like, okay, if Duotone is like taken or registered or the URL is gone.
Then do.
Yeah, it's like.
But where's the do? Because that's like a French thing.
French or like, Cajun or something.
Yeah.
It was just a better way than saying two, And like,
okay. So
honestly,
two.
Like I'm a big fan of like, nostalgia and like how nostalgic branding kind of creates like these weird memories. Like Leo's Hideout is a good example, but even like our name, it's like that X is really inspired by like things like the X Games or something. Like it's distinctive, It's like Gardopia. When I first heard about Gardopia, I was like, oh, it's like a dope garden.
Dope spot, baby. Yo, Spot Gang.
Yeah, and it was funny because I was like, okay, that's cool. But then you were talking about like this garden utopia and this, you know, like this idea of like bringing like agriculture to urban spaces and, you know, like getting back to the logo and what we were trying to communicate. And like, you know, frankly, for me, it's like if you want to engage with us, like the best way is just to reach out. Like we'll schedule a meeting. We'll, you know, do our best to inform you of like our creative vision, like mood boards, you know, really drawn out proposals and stuff to say like, hey, this is what you're getting. And we're not looking for any surprises. You know, we're not looking for any like, you know, we're two guys. So it's like, and in our, and we have a really great intern right now and really good contractors we work with and stuff, but we're really looking out for like our clients' best interests, but also trying to push up against them sometimes and say, hey, we know your competitors doing this, but is that who you are? You know, so
DueSouth.com.
Due South on Instagram.
Due South,
yeah.
Instagram.
Facebook,
They can send you a message.
Sure, there's still
go ahead and support them, y'all. You're gonna need graphic design. If you're a small, medium, even a large business owner, your branding is critical. For us here at Gardopia, our branding is critical, and he's done an amazing job with it. Stay tuned for stuff in the future because I feel like he's got something up his sleeve.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got a podcast on Spotify now.
What's that?
It's just Due South Podcast.
Due South Podcast.
Something else like Due South Radio, but I'm like, man, who am I?
Yeah. Perfect. We'll go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and subscribe in the near future.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, cheers.
Awesome,
Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Until next time, y'all. Peace.